Hello investor, welcome. This will be the 5th episode of Dara podcast. I'm your host Dara. In today's episode, we will talk about auditing in Cambodia. Exactly, what is the definition of audit? Maybe give you some guide over the services in Cambodia. How does auditing generally work? Now, I would say I have some experience in audit, and I want to share you what I think are the implications, right, of audit in Cambodia. So, firstly, I want to start off by giving you the definition and generalization into the picture of audit. Okay, so audit is like reviewing or checking the accuracy of a financial statement or any, I would say, document or system to our workplace, right? So example, you want to check whether your invoices, receipt, document, financial system, whether it is effective, it works, the numbers are correct. Well, in order to do that, you need to do something as a process which is called an audit process, right? And what an audit process does is that you pick a document, you observe it, and you're making sure that everything is accurate and true and fair, right? And so I want to talk a bit about accounting first, because I want to share with you the original sauce of how auditing really works, right? So audit mainly, I would say, rely on source document. Okay, their job is to check on document and to write, I would say, what they verified, what they see is true into their working paper, right? I will explain later on what that is. But firstly, I want to say that most of the source document that auditor audits comes from the source document created by accountant, right? Accountants. So example, financial statements, invoice, receipts, other financial document, all of that, they are made by an accountant, right? Either we talked about financial accountant, or we can talk about management accountant. So they help to create the document for the auditor to audit those documents, right? Whether, okay, there are numbers, they're wrong or true or not true, right? So they look into those documents. And you may ask, okay, Dara, why would they need to? That's a good question. In order to understand that, I want to take you to another topic into law in Cambodia. We actually there is a requirement that company, organization, or any other type of business that required to have their business audit, right? To have their financial statement audits is really important. And so if you wonder whether a company or a business really get audited, you can do two things. Number one, just ask them. That is just a straightforward methodology, right? A process. Or number two, you look into their financial statement, right? Or annual reports, whether there is any audit opinion on those documents. All right, that is the basic of it. Now, another thing is that who actually set out this rule, right? Who actually look beyond this audit requirement? right? This law. Well, there's two persons. We talked about NAC, which is National Accounting Council in Cambodia, and the other person is 𝐂𝐴. 𝐂𝐴 is an accounting auditing regulator in Cambodia, based in Cambodia, and they look at the requirement that this company should have, right, in order for their audit to be successful, and also look at how the audit firms in Cambodia regulate those audit processes as well. And if you talk about audit, in Cambodia or any other countries, they're the big four, right? The big four are KPMG, EY, Deloitte, and PwC. Those companies actually are the big four global auditing firms around the world. And they actually have a strict process, rules into auditing a company, a business, making sure that those business align with the IFRS, right? The other standards, IAS, all of those international financial reporting standard. They need to make sure that, okay, the company, they apply to those rules, right? How would a company be successful in order to pass their audit trail, right? To making sure that the opinion on their financial report are true and fair. Okay, it is unmodified. Okay, it is unqualified. So qualified mean is bad, unqualified mean is good. You can remember that. And so let me explain you what an audit opinion is first. Okay, so audit opinion, think of it like a recommendation by a teacher. Okay, let's say that she or he would give you an assignment, an essay, a writing example, and a problem to do. And so you did that problem, right? You solved that problem. You wrote those essay, and you give it to your teacher. And in this case, you're the company. Example, me, I'm the teacher, I'm the auditor. Okay, so you give me your assignment, right? You give me your assignment. I check on those assignments. If there is any problem, I will contact you. And there are time frames where if you don't check or review those mistakes, I will say, hey, I will give you a result, right? And by result, I mean a statement right on the financial report, okay, or an annual report. I'm saying that, okay, I give you a bad grading, example, right? And in an audit wording, we would say it is a qualified opinion, right? Meaning that, well, the company is not accurately or not objectively create a true and fair financial statement, right? There are material misstatement in Cambodia, in the financial statement, right? That's how it works. Now, before I get into the cases or the services or the audit industry in Cambodia, I want to say a few things related into the audit process. Okay, so after we check the source document, right, we will get a variance or any kind of mistake in them. I want to talk a bit deeply about this. And so we need to contact to the client and ask them, right, whether this variance, this mistake, this errors in the financial statement or the report, is it an accident, right? Firstly, is it really a mistake? Secondly, if it's a mistake, you did it on purpose or is an accident, right? We try to understand the situation. And another thing is that we need, as an auditor, right, in an audit process, whatever we need is in the audit evidence, right? Audit evidence is like the basic key points that an auditor can use to support their claim of saying the company is doing bad, or the company actually make a mistake in those report, right? So an audit evidence is really important. Let's take an example. There's an invoice and a receipt, right? The invoice, if you check for a company, if you check your company and you have an invoice, I would look at, okay, this is an invoice, but is there an approval for those purchase, for those services that the company actually requests from the supplier, right? And if there's not, well, there can be problems, right? Such as, why would there is actually a cash flow to that invoice if there's no approval, right? What happened to those money? And so we try to get the audit evidence to back it up. And so before the auditor says, okay, this is just bad, right? This is straight up a mistake from the company. What the auditor usually do is really talk to their client, asking them, where's the approval date, time, right? Try to back up their, I would say, improper invoice, right? So that's like the basic of audit evidence. We try to support a claim that a company is, I would say, mistakenly, not accurately, fully write a document, right? We try to give an evidence to support those claims, okay? And it is similar to a researcher, I would say. A researcher is someone that researches about topic and they usually have a backup information, right? A data that they can use to support their claims of saying something. It's the same thing. But in this case, as an auditor, we use the company information, right? And it really relate with clients, right? I will talk about this when I actually reach to Cambodia points of view, all right? But that is just the basic. As an auditor, you review documents from a clients, from a company that want their auditor, that want their financial statement audited, okay? And the auditor will give out opinion whether the financial statement are true and fair, meaning there are no mistake, least mistake, or no material misstatement, so on and so forth. Why the company need or required to have their financial statement audited is based on the law in Cambodia, right? We have a turnover threshold, a asset total asset threshold that required for a company to be audited, okay? And so that's how the auditing process works. Now let's get to the fun part. I will talk about Cambodia, okay, in the case of Cambodia. So since I have some experience in the audit field, I want to say that auditing in Cambodia is a great way to learn about many industries, okay? Especially if you're new, right? That is just the basic concept for career prospect. However, I also see some lacking point in the process and whether there are improvement points that as an auditor, as the audit firms can take advantage of, okay? So the first thing I want to talk about is within the client, okay? When we work as an auditor, we try to get as much as information from the client in a short or a specific time frame, okay? If we cannot get those things, we cannot prove whether the numbers, the documents given by the client is true or false, is true and fair or not, right? We cannot, okay? It's like looking at a number and then try to sum it, try to plus all those numbers without any original copies, without any original reports. As an auditor, we need to have a document, original document from clients and a calculation. For the calculation part, we call it as the audit process, right? Where we can recalculate, we can inspect, we can observe as an audit process to make sure we get enough evidence to support the claims, okay? Now in Cambodia, there are some cases where clients respond long time to the auditor, which mean that the auditor, I would say, need to spend a lot of time in engagement. Okay, what is an engagement? An engagement is a project where a auditor team, example, we have associate, we have senior, we have partner, director, all of those people, they audit a company, okay? And so we call it as an engagement. It's similar to a project, okay? So, yeah, the main problem, I can say, some client would give out long, would take time to give out the source document, and so auditor need to wait and the audit process would be long, right? And you know, there's specific time, specific date that the audit process can end. And so you actually can think about this. If the client, right, take much time to give the document to the auditor would, I don't know what, it's a long process, right? That's what I'm trying to say, okay? Now, of course, from the auditor side, I can see that they would also try to, you know, not rush the client, but try to give them the sense of alert that, hey, in order for the audit process to work, to fasten it up, we need a smooth collaboration from you as a client, okay? So that when we get the source document, we can get the evidence to support the claim. That's the main thing. Okay, so that is the thing that I see as a lacking point. But it's, I wouldn't say it's only in Cambodia. It can be in other countries as well. I want to talk, and the other one I want to talk about is related to team. The audit process that as from my experience working in a team, in an audit team, we usually help each other out. But that's a good point. But in some case or scenario, there will be problems, there will be time where few members don't understand, few members don't really know what is going on or what is actually the objective of the audit process. And so it can happen in two ways. Number one, the high role teaches the lower role. Example, associate don't understand about inventory, so they ask a senior, the senior respond quickly how it goes. That is straightforward, easy. Another point, the senior would be a bit busy, they have to learn it by themselves. And that is just the main blockage of what I can say in audit process. And it is, I would say, audit work will be a tired job, but a fruitful job. Meaning that you will work long hour in order to get the evidence from the source document, verify everything, but at the same time, you will learn a lot from the industries, okay, such as manufacturing, services, food, restaurant, apparel, you know, all of those industries. So that's the actually good part. And you know, in Cambodia, right now, auditing companies actually start to know about the requirement for their company or any company to get audited. How? The training created by NAC, by 𝐂𝐴, they help to make the company alert about these requirements, about these process that the company need to obey, need to apply in for their financial statement to be true and fair. Okay? And the only problem I could see is the long work hour. Nothing more than that. That is the case I wanna say. If you look into how the customer, the client, they can help, well, they can obviously try to collaborate, right, or agree with the auditor. I'm not saying that, okay, the client needs to 100%, 10 over 10, 24 hours response to the auditor. No, I'm saying that if they have the chance, or if an auditor requests them something, they should at least take consideration into when those documents should be handed over to the auditor, because it is a process. They use the audit services. They should expect the audit process flow smoothly. Okay. And in order to do that, they need to give out data, information, source document in a frequent manner. Okay. Another thing that I want to talk about will relate to how the scope of audit service, right? The process related to working papers. Oh, by the way, I haven't talked about working papers. Working papers means it refers to a document, right, that an auditor need to check, need to write, need to review by looking at the source document. Okay, it's like a report. So, example, in a financial statement, there are many things. For example, in the balance sheet, there can be asset, liabilities, inventory, receivable, debt, loan, all of those stuff. They have individual working papers to check whether the accounts, the items are true and fair, there's no mistake, there's no error in the financial statement, in the accounts, right? So the working paper, I would say, is to make sure not making sure, but to review, are there any mistakes? Are there any problems that the auditor can look at? Okay. But to sum it up, auditing in Cambodia, they can actually expand the scope, put more training on the lower rank, not lower rank, I would say, like associate, senior, right? Like a lower team, okay? They should have more training into how the process would work, okay? So, on the other hand, the associate, the senior, they could spend their time reviewing, learning about the document, about the process as well, right? So you can do two things. Again, as the higher role, if they don't respond, we can look into how we can review the source document by ourselves, learning by ourselves. But I want to recommend this, okay, to any of you who works in an audit field or any similar field. If you are a manager, if you are a senior, if you are a higher role position worker, employers, you should take into the consideration of how you delegate your work and making sure that your delegatee or your associate actually know what they are doing, okay? And if they don't, teach them, communicate, okay? Stress is another story, work is another story. Just don't get them confused together. And I would say our audit process can be hugely improved from the audit side. From the client side, again, understand how the audit process really works. You cannot expect an audit process to go fast, smoothly if the auditor, as an auditor, don't get, or at least get least document from the client. Okay, you cannot expect it to go smoothly if you don't get the document. Okay, so yeah, that's all for the audit industry in Cambodia. I hope that you learn about the process a bit. Maybe this is not clear, you can research more about what audit is and how the process really works. I'm just trying to give you the glance of what audit in Cambodia is really like and share you what I think the implication of audit in the future as well. Yeah, that's all for the 5th episode of Dara podcast, and I will see you in the next episode. Thank you.